We are doing another painting today, or I'm doing another painting today. If you're here, let me know you're here. Hello, Marty. Hello, Maria. So good to see you this morning. Hedda and Tayeen or Tayjean? Probably Tayeen. Gail Knowles, good morning. Good morning, Juliana. So good to see everybody. Hello, Mane from Georgia. So good to see you. Let me see if I can get my comments to turn on my tablet. Oops. Wow, got butterfingers this morning. Okay. Okay, here we go. How can I comments to turn on? Yeah. Okay. Hey, okay, there we go. All right, everybody. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. It is a happy Wednesday because we get to paint today. Yay. We get to be alive. We get to be inspired. We get to take back our own power over our creativity and our inspiration and our internal, world as well. So good morning, good morning. So just to remind everybody, I am doing these live demos throughout the month of February as a way to get my own creative juices flowing again after this big transition that I've been through, moving back to Connecticut and after my long stay in Europe. So it's really helping me, and I hope that it's also serving you and helping you. I hope you're getting a lot out of it as well. Just as a friendly reminder, every week we are giving away one copy of this DVD absolutely free to one subscriber on my email list. If you're an Art Life School student, you're already on the list, so you're already included in that. You don't need to sign up again. If you are not, you can go to artlifewithkelly.com and really just sign up for any of the free gifts that I have for you on that website, and you'll automatically get on the list. You'll know whenever you're on the list because you'll start getting emails from me, okay? So if you are getting emails from me from Art Life with Kelly, then you know that you are a subscriber on the list and you are automatically entered for a chance to win that free DVD. Okay, good morning everybody. So good to see all of you here. I wonder if I'm going to have to keep hitting refresh to see new comments. I guess so. Oops. Which is going to be a problem with my butterfingers. Apparently my fingers work better painting than pushing buttons on tablet by finger. Okay, so I'm super excited to be working on this painting today. And afterwards, this afternoon, before we're getting a big storm coming in tomorrow, for the live workshop, the Valentine's Day workshop that we're doing tomorrow afternoon and Friday afternoon inside the Art Life School, and that's going to be on Valentine's treats. So I'm going this afternoon to pick up some Valentine's, maybe cakes or cupcakes or cookies, things like that, so that we're going to paint Thursday and Friday afternoon inside the Art Life School community. So Art Life members, keep an eye out for those reference photos. They will be coming to you either sometime this afternoon or tomorrow morning for you to use for our workshop. And then we'll have a live Q&A on Monday following, and to just answer any further questions, or if you want to get feedback on your work and just in general some support for your art life journey. If you're not an Art Life School member, you are invited to sign up and join. You can go to Art Life with Kelly with an I and find the Art Life School membership and read all about what you get inside the Art Life School and inside the wonderful community that we have going on, our Art Life family, our Art Life tribe. We call it the Art Life family most of the time. All right, good morning, Maria Dorigo. So good to see you. Okay, so I wanted to kind of deviate a little bit from just straight up roses, and I feel like this is kind of a good way to show you like how much you can actually play with just one subject and still be getting in that intentional practice with one subject like roses, but also bringing in some variety and finding different ways that you can use that object or that subject so that you can keep getting enough consistent practice if you're wanting to get better at it. So today I have more of a traditional still life. Sometimes these are kind of called kitchen still lifes. Just kind of harken back to French artists like Jean-Baptiste Simeon Chardin, or even the Dutch still life painters that would do, fruits and flowers, a combination of fruits and flowers and things like that. So you've got a beautiful copper picture here, and I was kind of questioning at first, like, are these pink roses really going to work with this? But the thing that I felt really made it work was there's a little bit of pink in this copper. So I was questioning whether or not the colors here would all work together with these bright, lemons. And so I went ahead and set it all up, and I put in this cloth, and I felt like this fabric, this tapestry, is going to be a really wonderful unifier for the colors. It kind of has a little bit of all of the colors in the setup in this fabric. So you want to think about things like that, right? Like if there feels like maybe things are like color-wise a little bit disconnected, see if you can find something that does have several of the colors in your design included in that one object, and it's like, voila, magic, it all comes together now. So this tapestry, one side has the gold color, and then the other side has more of like the pinks and purples and reds in it, and some of this kind of corally color, as well as kind of bringing in some of those pink tones. So that really kind of tied it all together and kind of made all these, especially the yellow and pink, which I think is the most problematic colors together, could be problematic without this unifier. So once I brought that in, it was like, okay, voila, this is going to work. And yeah, it's going to be gorgeous and beautiful. Okay, so let me get the camera a little bit closer. Move my tablet. Hello, Aphrodite. Hello, Candy. And good morning, Julie Caballero. Hi, Lucy. Hello, sweetness. So good to see you. Copper, I love copper too. It's like the color of, it's a symbol of creativity as well, which is lovely. And oh my gosh, where we stayed in Paris, we were right next to that really famous copper store, literally. Delaran, I don't know how you say it, how you pronounce it in French. And then there was one of our favorite bistros was right on the corner next to it, called Brasserie, or I guess it was a Brasserie Loop. And they had so many beautiful copper pieces in their brasserie. It was so lovely. All right, so first I'm just gonna, good morning, Elizabeth. Good morning, Arena. So good to see you. Just gonna get this palette cleaned off from yesterday's painting. If you missed that, you can watch the replay. That'll be up and available for 30 days here on my Facebook page. It'll be available, all of these will be available permanently inside the Art Life School community after February is over. So I've seen some comments already from my Art Life School members that this is helping you kind of get your juices flowing again, get some ideas going, kind of start to nurture your way out of maybe a slump or out of maybe just a creative slump, or, with the holidays, sometimes just those interruptions and maybe we get away from our regular routine. If you're like me, also big life changes that, I went through in the last couple of months, which I tend to sometimes underestimate how much those are going to affect me. putting out some Kremnitz white here for this painting today. Got a new tube of Kremnitz white. Yeah. Gotta love that. And so all kinds of different things can sort of suck the creative energy out of us. And anxiety is definitely one of those. Stress and anxiety is definitely the biggest, I would say, energy vampire for creativity. And the funniest thing is, though, that it's also the antidote and the cure for a lot of stress and anxiety is being more creative. So I asked this question yesterday, and if you're following along today and maybe you didn't think about it or answer it yesterday, I just asked you to just kind of check in with yourself, and on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, if you feel like you're at 0, which is just fine, very normal to feel that way. On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you feel you are at right now on the inspiration creativity level? 1 being, I'm not doing anything, I'm not making anything, I don't feel creative, I don't feel desire to create, I feel just really blah, I'm not even sure if I'll ever create again. That would be kind of the extreme low level. And putting out some burnt umber here. And the high level of a 10 would be like, this girl is on fire. Like your well is so full and overflowing. And, you can't paint fast. You can't paint fast enough. You can't get all the ideas that you have out fast enough. You're loving everything that you're creating. You're just having a great time. You're just really in flow. So that would be a 10. So if you missed that question yesterday, check in with yourself today and see where you're at, just for your own awareness. Lucy's at an 8. Yay, Lucy. Good for you. And it can change from, week to week, day to day. And I'm curious, Lucy, did you get some playtime yesterday? Of course I miss Paris. Oh my gosh, are you kidding, girl? Oh my gosh. Yes, we miss it. We miss it so much. So much. It was just such a wonderful, wonderful adventure and experience. But we know that we will go back. So yesterday, I'm going to keep this by short and sweet because you can watch the video from yesterday if you want further explanation on this. But basically what I recommended was if you were, can't find my ultramarine blue, where did it go? If you feel like you're at a 5 or below, the best thing for you to do in that case is just to Hang on, bear with me. I've totally lost my ultramarine blue. Okay. The best thing for you to do is to try to just integrate some small amount of play. And it doesn't even have to be art related. Just something that feels fun and playful. It could even be going outside and taking a walk. Let's see, do I have everything? Maybe it's collecting leaves. If you live by the beach, maybe it's strolling by the beach and collecting seashells. Maybe it's just, finding inspiring photos of beautiful places. It could be anything. But that would be my recommendation. And whatever, just make a list of 10 things off the top of your head that sounds fun and inspiring to do, and then go do one of them. It doesn't matter how silly, especially if it feels silly. It's not silly. Go do it anyway. Okay. All right, this girl is, hey, good, Candy. Yes, Nancy, you can watch these later. They'll be recorded here. And they will be in your Art Life School library permanently. So Haley will be uploading these into our Art Life School library once a week. So don't ask for them every day because she can't, do them one at a time every day with her schedule that she works for me. But once a week, she's going to batch upload these to our library. And so if you need to watch it before then, you can watch it here on the Facebook page. Okay, I'm going to just get this kind of toned quickly with a little bit of burnt umber in ultramarine blue. Working on an 8x10 ampersand gesso board again, in case you're wondering, especially if you're new to me. Most of the Art Life School members, I think, know pretty much what I paint on consistently. And just side note, I will be here tomorrow and Friday, 10 a.m., but they will most likely be very short and sweet and simple, maybe really tiny paintings because of the workshop in the afternoon. But it'll be something fun. I'm gonna get away from roses tomorrow and Friday and maybe just do something simple. Could be a macaroon, I've got some ideas floating around in my head, y'all. Could just be like some simple cherries. I'm thinking something kind of Valentine's Day-ish. Who knows? I'm gonna go out and explore this afternoon and look for some Valentine's Day inspired props, whether that is props or fruit. And no flowers. I'm saying no to flowers for this live workshop. We do a lot of flowers, so I think it'll be fun to do something that's more specifically Valentine's-y. Valentine's-y, is that a word? Okay. Good morning, Tamara. Hey, Elizabeth, you're on the rise at number 5. Awesome, so happy to hear that. I thought of another tip, to share with all of you, and that is, I hear sometimes from people like, I don't know what to paint. And I'm a big believer that, whatever we can see, especially as artists, whatever's out for us to look at, especially if it's if we're not overlooking it, is a good way to keep some ideas fresh. So one thing I do is I keep some inspiring art books out and open on my table, and then I do try to kind of change them up if I start to, or just flip the page. That's a good way to do it too. I just kind of flip the page, and that way, it's not sitting there so long that I'm overlooking it. Okay, I'm just gonna envelope shape this subject matter in to kind of figure out how much space it's going to take up. So that really helps me, I love, what's that website? Thrift Books. Thrift Books, of course, your local library might have a lot of, kind of art history books or art books that you can get if you're on a tight budget. There's always ways that you can get art books very affordably. Thrift Books is one of my favorite ways. That way I don't feel too bad if I end up donating them or, gifting them or selling them later on, because they don't cost that much. And you can really find some real gems on that website. So I try to, I have so many of the older art books, which I feel like are actually very good, very inspiring. And sometimes you can find different ideas that not everybody's doing today in those older books. All right, so I'm just trying to get my largest object placed first, which roughly is on that first hand third. What kind of helps me figure that out? First of all, I already know that that's where it's going to go whenever I set this up, just because of compositional practice and study. You don't really have to guess where to put that over time, but part of that is just understanding that compositionally things that land on those thirds, so the thirds of the, if you were to divide your canvas into thirds vertically and horizontally, where those third intersections are really the ideal placement for your objects on the canvas. And let's get an idea. I'm going to just kind of follow through here for the fabric. And this fold coming down, let's see, I may need to just kind of, I do want to get some of that tassel, or it's not tassel, I guess it's just kind of some raggedy fringe, but it'll be really beautiful in the painting. So I'm going to raise that, shorten that just a little bit for my painting. Go ahead and put in some cast shadow underneath. The other thing that's nice about this fabric is it just brings in a little bit of softness, a little bit of a different texture to the composition, which is really important. I think this would really, this painting, it would still be a good painting, but it would really be missing out on a lot of extra goodies that the fabric actually brings in. So this is definitely one thing that cannot be painted out at the end of the painting. This is a meat and potatoes. It's pulling its weight big time in this composition. And then just layers, you know, because whenever you don't have a ton of depth of space in your composition, little layers like this, like the fact that this is folded over the fabric and we get this little shadow here, this fold here, which maybe I might move that over just a little bit further. Just these small amounts of layers really do make a big difference. So I'm also blocking in my shadows in stage one. This is the start. Stage one is getting your started. So your size and placement, you tone, you get your size and placement, you block in your shadows. You do all those foundational things that are going to set up your painting for success. So this rose is going to be roughly here. Okay, so this might be an example of something that could get eliminated, and it's that back rose that's in shadow. It's not going to make or break the painting if it's there or not. Definitely we need this rose because this creates that really nice diagonal movement, which is just going to bring a little more dynamic quality to the picture. If everything is always just kind of straight across and there's not a lot of up and down, like the other thing that brings in more dynamic quality here is all these varying heights. If everything is kind of the same size or kind of landing at the same level in your landscape or in your still life, that is going to make it look just a little bit boring. So feel free to ask any questions that you might have along the way. Just taking my time here, building this out, just trying to relate the size of the lemon to the size of the picture, and then after I get in my shadow shapes, I'm just kind of wiping away for my lights. Some of the stuff is getting kind of small, so I'll need to switch down to a smaller brush here soon. Do whatever is in back first, rather than try to work around that lemon. Be easier if you get this kind of set up first. Now, when it comes to relating sizes, you don't have to necessarily break out the measuring tape or the measuring stick. It's usually what it's called for artists. You don't have to do that. I'm not saying that it's not valuable to do that. I mean, I definitely was trained that way in art school, where you measure everything. It can really teach you to train your eye to judge distances, to judge comparable proportions. So it's not that is not valuable, and the downside is getting stuck in that way of creating, because it's really, at some point, can just become like you're kind of stuck in this cage of measuring, rather than looking at your setup and your painting. Sometimes you might want the grapes to be a little smaller, or vice versa, maybe a little bigger. You might want the lemon to be a little smaller. So part of the problem with just sticking with measuring all the time, after you've built a skill set of, seeing and being able to judge proportions and whatnot, is that, you can miss out on the opportunity to really think artistically about your creation on your own, without just like, oh, I've got to check off the checklist of I measured everything. And I don't know how many times, in workshops and classes that I've taught where students have been very frustrated after they have done a perfect job measuring it all, or even color matching is another example of this. But I matched the color, I matched the value. The painting should be correct. Sorry, I'm not laughing maniacally at anyone, but and I fully understand, because, I did that too as a student. But the problem with that is that you start to realize, oh, it doesn't really matter how much I match. It may not ensure, it's kind of a false security that you think it's going to ensure success of the painting. Anyways. Now I'm just looking where darks are going to kind of join together here a little bit. Negative spaces in between things. Little pieces of light that are overlapping, like the little leaf here. And I think we're good. I don't need to go in and do all the little details. Like I don't really need to do the stem. You can, or the little folds of the petals and whatnot. Those are just too small of details to be doing right now. Hey, Kathy, good morning. You're awake. I love it. It's a good day to be alive and be awake. Love that. Regardless of what's going on in the world, right? Sometimes it's hard to keep our perspective on that. Okay, so I'm gonna now, before we go on to stage 2, I'm gonna get in some background color. So I'm gonna do some ivory black, some burnt umber, and some cad yellow deep. I'm gonna do kind of like a greenish, like a warm greenish tone, I think, back here. Just kind of a brownish green. Looks a little bit like baby poo or olive green. I guess that's not a good thing to associate it with. But I just want to get something going back here that'll kind of disappear. It doesn't have to be jet black. You could do jet black if you want to, or really, really dark. You can go lighter with this subject as well, to a lighter middle tone. So that's the other thing, is like you're in control. You get to create what you decide you want to create, and then you get to see how well or how not well it worked. And if your creations are, something feels off about your painting, which is very common as well, it doesn't mean anything. It's going to be easier to paint this handle over it. Doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean that, oh, I wasn't meant to do this, maybe, It's like, no, it's all just information. The more you can try to be objective about what you're doing, the better. And just being honest about, did that work? If it didn't work, why do I think it didn't work? Putting a little bit of yellow ochre in this to get it a little bit lighter as we come around here, around the grapes. So the more you can kind of relax and get that performance and anxiety out of the way, the better. That way you can just really respond to what you're doing, and try to, really learn from the process. Tilt that a little bit because I'm noticing I'm getting some glare. All right, so now we're into stage 2, which I call the build. This is where we're building light and color in this stage. Not necessarily the finishing details, but basically light, the local color and light, and you're going to do your highlights in this stage as well. I'm going to start with some cadmium lemon, a little bit of cad yellow deep too, just to kind of get a more middle tone yellow. I'm just going to start to build some of this color. I'm not worried yet about all the little, half tones or how the color is transitioning into the shadow. Nothing like that right now. So the nice thing about that too is it kind of takes the edge off. It kind of takes some of that performance anxiety off already. And you're just building basic shapes. Now, as a beginner, as a student, sometimes this is uncomfortable because you feel like, ugh, that doesn't look like a lemon yet. I remember those days, trying to get it to look like the thing faster than, not really trusting the process and trying to get it to look like the thing too quickly. All right, so with the copper, I'm going to start with some burnt sienna, some cad yellow deep, kind of a hotter copper color to begin with. And then I am going to put a little bit of this background color in there because I think the biggest trap I see people fall into with copper or brass, but especially copper, seems more common with copper, is that they make it too saturated, too hot, too saturated of a color. They, kind of paint it all too much that bright orange, yellow color. So usually you want to desaturate it a bit. You can use this background green, you can use some burnt umber is also a good option, or a little bit of raw umber would work as well. The burnt sienna is already kind of an earthier tone. And since I have my burnt umber here, then I can just paint this color straight into this burnt umber. And I'm going to leave my form shadow darker over here on the right. Take that same color and start to pull out the lip, just turning the brush to the side. Just one shape at a time, one brush stroke at a time. Now remember I mentioned that you are going to also get in your highlights. So for this highlight, I definitely want to go more pinky. So I'm going to do cab red light and a little bit of that Naples yellow, so that ties in. I'm going to kind of follow this curve. This doesn't need to look precise or perfect just yet. Mostly I'm trying to get a sense of the form, create some sense of the form and where that sort of apex of light is going to be. And down at the foot, there's another kind of cool highlight down here. So we're just trying to, you could also do like a violet would be nice, be a nice cool on warm if you went to the violet family as well. Again, we're not looking for it to be finished or done yet. We're just getting the build going. All right. Now for I'm going to switch back to actually I'll do the cloth last since that kind of has all colors in it. And then that way I have those colors on the palette. I'm going to go to my grapes. I'm going to do just more of a purple for them. Some, what color is that? Alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. And make sure you go thick enough in your darks so that they do have the power of the dark. If you go too thin, you can see that that tone that we started with actually was quite maybe lighter. It looked dark in relationship to everything we have on the canvas so far, but as soon as we put something nice and rich and dark like that on, all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I had no idea we could go that deep and that rich of a color. So in stage 2, you're trying to kind of push what is sort of the extreme identity of each object. What is what's it bringing to the party, you know? Rather than getting hung up on details right away. Everything has been put in for a reason. You know, there's a reason why it's there. There's a role it's playing in the picture. So in this case, the grapes are bringing that dark. And if you do ever feel like your painting is feeling kind of off, you know, I always say, you know, look to make sure that you have a light, bright, dark, dull in the picture. If you don't have any kind of really darks or any really bright lights or any light lights or any bright color going on, you may be missing one of those 4 things, or maybe you have too much color and not enough neutrals in the painting. So for the shadow side here of this lemon, I'm just starting it off with some of that cad yellow deep and burnt umber. Burnt umber with the cadmiums really makes, raw umber too, but burnt umber really makes a beautiful neutral, this kind of neutral yellow that we need in the shadows here. Sometimes too a little bit of burnt sienna if you want a little extra heat in that mix, like I'm kind of seeing that this cast shadow back here has a little more, feels a little hotter. Not that I should necessarily be going to shadows yet. We will do that before we go to stage 3. And then I just wipe that out of my brush. Okay, let's do Pink of the Roses. And I'm just gonna do some Cab Red Light and white, and a little bit of that Naples yellow. Last couple of days I've been using titanium white, and so I'm noticing quite a difference between using the cremants. It's a softer tinting strength, you know, so you'll need less color. Whereas titanium definitely washes out the colors so much faster. So not all whites are created equal. And this one up here, I think I'm going to do a little bit more cad red to start, and a little bit of alizarin crimson to get it a little bit cooler. I'm just trying to get the basic shape. And just because I say basic shape doesn't mean that it's like, oh, just slop some paint on there. You know, no, you want to really observe, like if you could cut that shape out, that shape of light, specifically the shape of light, out against the background and against the shadow side of the rose, what is that shape? You know, so it's not that the shape is not, you know, precise, or precise, that might not be the right word, but it's not that, you know, it's not just some random shape. No, you really are trying to observe what is that shape. Same thing for the shadow shape. So I'm doing some burnt umber, again, our magical burnt umber in this painting, with some Cab Red Light for our shadow color, and maybe we do need some white in that, maybe a little purple too. It's kind of like a purpley color for the shadow shape here. on all these objects, before you go to stage 3, you want to have 3 things. You want to have a light shape with the value and local color started. You want to have a shadow shape with the value and local the color of the shadow shape started. And you want to have a highlight if there's a highlight. Roses don't have highlights, by the way. Okay, so we're almost done with stage 2. We have our missing piece, our missing ingredient here. Before I get to that, I am going to do my shadow shape on the lemon. So I'll show you what happens if you start with ivory black and Cabulo Deep. You get a really green. Have you ever done that? And then it's like, ooh. So you want to try to move more towards, on lemons, you want to move away from the green, more towards the reddish tone family, so that your lemon looks nice and healthy and doesn't look like it's rotting. Plus the green goes kind of cold in temperature for this cool, light, warm shadow kind of painting. So you can pull in, again, you can pull in a little bit of burnt sienna. So if you don't have burnt umber, this would be the way that I would, go with it. And I put so much paint down there that I need to really compensate for that. So I'm just going to paint in some straight burnt sienna. This is a little tricky zone around the lemon for values. So I can decide that later on. I don't need to decide right now, like how much of the lemon am I going to pop from the background? Do I need to change the background value a little bit? I'm noticing that that will be a choice that I'll need to make at some point, but I don't need to make it now. One thing at a time, baby steps. Okay, so as I mentioned, everything getting a highlight, or if you have something like this that has a rind on it, you want to get that started as well at this stage. And of course, the lemons do have a bit of a highlight. Sometimes when you dig into the paint, it gets kind of muddy and murky, or maybe you accidentally drag some of your shadow into your light. So just come back with some fresh paint. Make sure that this shape is a large enough shape and it's clean enough color. It just happens. It's okay, you just paint over it. You don't need to scrape it off. No need for temper tantrums, or, I mean, you can do that if you want. Sometimes it just feels good to get angry. For kicking and screaming on the floor, or throwing your canvas across the room. But, obviously that might be therapeutic to do that, but come back. At some point you want to come back and regain your dignity and composure and to solve the problem. Just solve the problem. Okay. All right. Now, I've also got that green I talked about. So I've already got this cad lemon here. So I'll do some ivory black in with that cad lemon, and maybe some Naples yellow. Some Naples yellow? Let's see. To get some of this lighter green started here. And I'm feeling like I want it to be more green. Maybe I had some purple on my pile of blue there from making the grapes. So I'm going to pull in some ultramarine blue with that cad lemon. Yeah, I like that green's a little more saturated. So again, just kind of starting some of these colors and some of these greens. Even though the rose doesn't have highlights, one thing I could do is get the lightest petals established before I move on. So down here, these petals that are breaking away, this angle, because that's also, kind of a feeling of finish on that object, even though it doesn't have a highlight. And it's kind of creating more form. Watch out that all your petals aren't parallel to one another. Rose petals are always kind of in a spiral, asymmetrical. They're never parallel. And then make sure that you get, like in this case, light's coming from top left. So that means that the light on the inside of the rose is also catching on that far right. There's no, it's solid this way, but then it's more concave on the inside. So just keep that in mind. Just pushing the light there a little bit more. Maybe I'll do the same thing on this one, pushing the light a little bit more on the top where the light is, even though these don't have highlights, there is a part on the form that is getting hit with more light, okay, than the rest of the form, where the plane is changing, where the plane is more directly facing the light source. Hi, Pam Ingalls, so good to see you this morning. So now we can get to our cloth and start to tie some of these colors together. It's not going to be quite that lemon yellow, so I'm going to start with yellow ochre. Maybe a little smidge of Naples yellow. I'm going to kind of put this on a bit thinner, not too thick right off the bat, because I know that I'm going to be building on top of it. Now I want to make sure that this edge where the fold, this first fold starts, has a nice crisp edge. I'm going to kind of paint around where my form shadows are on the cloth, these little soft buckles that are happening in the cloth. And kind of use some of that ground to kind of soften that color, gray that color as it goes back into space. Now, part of the trick here is going to be, letting this be a little more ambiguous as we come over to the left. So maybe less light, less Naples yellow, maybe use more of that ground, which is why I painted it in there to begin with. I knew it's not going to be that color or that dark, but it does need to be a little quieter over here on this side. And there is some shadow on there, so definitely where you have some cast shadow, you can leave it. I need more burnt umber. I keep licking that pile thinking something else is going to get on my brush. It's like you can keep doing that, but you don't have any paint left, girl. Yeah, I'm getting some, oh, that's me moving, I guess, getting clear. I'm gonna go adjust these blinds and see if that helps. I got East Light again, and it's so gorgeous, but it can, for video, it can cause some issues. Let's see if that's better. Okay. And I could also be that I'm so darn white because it's winter time that I'm casting a bunch of glare on it. Need a suntan. Pearl needs a tan. It's dark and gray here, y'all. It's real dark and gray. Okay. Need to go to the tan booth or something. No, I'm just kidding. I don't go to those. I just do that fake tan. You know what the best ones, sorry, this is not commentary on painting. The best sunless tanner, by the way, especially for all you really, really white girls out there like me, is Bondi Sands. Have you ever used it? OMG. It's so good. And it doesn't stink. I'm telling you 100% the truth. It does not stink. I was in shock. That it actually did not smell bad, because every sunless tanner, as a white, British, Irish, freckle-faced girl, and I'm telling you, I've tried every one that's probably ever been made. I don't know who needs to hear this today, but I feel like somebody needs to hear it. I've been trying sunless tanners ever since I was probably 13 years old enough to, buy them on my own and turn myself orange like a Oompa Loompa and get ridiculed and made fun of at school just because I wanted to have some color. Anyways, I've pretty much tried every single one, I have to say. I tried Bondi Sands last summer and it was amazing. So if you're going on a winter vacation, maybe you're getting out of the winter blues by going to the beach, highly recommend it. Let me see, it is really good. Now, you didn't know you were going to get sunless tanning advice today, did you? Bondi, not bonsai. Bondi Sands, the Australian tan. I do the light medium, self-tanning foam, coconut scent. It really does smell like coconut. It's from Australia. And you want to get yourself a mitt, okay, so you don't turn your palms tan. And then I just wear it, put it on all day, just wear a robe around the house or something that you don't want to mess up. I always have a jumpsuit. I wear. Looking at Bondi Sands. See, we can be girly and be phenomenal artists. It's allowed. It's a thing. Okay. That's funny. I can't believe I just started talking about that. Weird stuff happens sometimes around here, around these parts, in this brain of mine. Okay, I'm going to add in some alizarin crimson into that yellow ochre color. You want to look good too when you paint. Not just your paintings that can be beautiful. You're beautiful. Okay. I'm going to add in a little white into this, and let's see. Oh no, that's more purpley, isn't it? Okay, so I'm going to go back to my grape color, add in some white into the grape color. Correction. Yeah, so that's just bringing in some of that coolness of that color. And then let's go to Cab Red Light, Naples Yellow for this kind of corally pattern. Now, I don't like to draw and fill in the lines, y'all, on these patterns, especially on a tapestry type of pattern like this, because the tapestries have more of that kind of rug-like texture. And, you want to try to intimate that texture in your painting, right? So you want kind of some softer edges. You want to kind of build up some paint quality, all those little bumpies that are in the woven part of the rug. I think where we can kind of go astray here is kind of thinking again that, oh, if I draw all that pattern on there, then I won't mess up the pattern. But again, you're sacrificing a quality of the texture in order to feel safe in your drawing. It's just paint, and you will get better at drawing. So if you mess up your paint, that's okay. Or mess up your drawing, it's okay. Okay, I'm going to add in some burnt umber in here. And then the other thing I would say is pay attention to where the cloth is curving, okay, and try to make sure that you're not painting your pattern on too flat. You want to make sure that, that pattern is kind of curving, like this part of the fold here kind of has like this little tubular curve to it, and then it flattens out here. Yeah, get yourself some Bondi sands. You will not regret it. And dang, I should have set up a Amazon referral link to get a commission. No, I'm happy just to help a fellow white girl out. We need some help in that department. Okay, and I would say less is more here. Less is more, less is more. Although I am kind of taking my dear sweet time with it, so I guess I should probably get a move on. Getting some insight into how my brain works whenever I don't have a 30-minute timer going. Or lessons. And stay focused. I don't know if it's the perimenopause or what. I got some kind of ADHD stuff brewing up here. Try to stay focused here. Okay. Burnt umber, alizarin crimson. Going to go darker for this pattern over here. Just going to suggest that back in the distance. All right. I do think I'm probably going to need to go, I have to make a decision. I either want to go lighter. Let me do the reflected lights, kind of move into stage 3, which involves reflected lights. I'm going to see what happens if I play up this reflected light in the shadow of the copper. Because pretty much that color we have down for copper will work. You know, that burnt umber. Let's see, this needs to be a little more orangey since it's in the shadow. Basically, I'm trying to decide, like, do I want to take the background a little bit darker to make this look more vibrant? The other problem to solve is the handle against the background. You know, it's lighter, it's brass as well, so yeah, I think I'm going to have to take that left side of the background a bit darker. So I'm starting out with some ivory black and cad yellow deep and burnt sienna. Just the basic shapes. So we're going to start it a bit darker here and then build in the highlights. Okay. So this is very similar to painting the copper, but it's brass, so it's got more yellow in it. I use a palette knife so that I can get this to really shine more, where this highlight is showing up more. It's not gonna outline the whole handle, but you're gonna notice where it kind of, these little patterns or scrolly bits start to pick up more of a highlight. Maybe I want to curve that a little bit more. All right, so that will kind of give me a good way to judge what to do back there, adjust that background value. I'm going to do some black, burnt umber and burnt sienna. Kind of keep it rich, but I definitely think, you know, going a bit darker. This will also make these values make more sense on the cloth. Get rid of my little arrow here. And then try to carve around that green color I just put in. This will also make the copper, that side of the copper, stand out better. You can always make adjustments on your background color and value. 9 times out of 10, you do have to do that. So that start, you know, the build, the start, stage 1, we put that in stage 1 before we even had all the other local colors and values in. So it's not, if you're finding that you have to do this, it's not that you did or didn't have anything to relate it to yet. It's such a relief to not be wrong. Right? But seriously, like I know, well, I'm just speaking from my own past experience. I know I used to really think, oh, why didn't I get that background color right? And now, knowing what I know now, I realize that's a ridiculous expectation to have. It's like you didn't even have everything in, all the information in to be able to even accurately assess that background color. So I also say don't agonize too much right off the bat on your background color and value. You know, like you'll probably have a general idea, like here's kind of the color family I want it to be in, or I want it to be a darker background or a lighter background. But that doesn't mean that you're gonna, you know, knock it out of the park right away in that stage 1. So cut yourself some slack, girlies and boys, if you're listening. We do have some boys that listen to me, and who knows, they might be ordering some Bondi Sands here pretty soon. Ain't nothing wrong with that. I'm just pushing my shadow a little bit and also starting to work on stage 3, the transition into the shadow. This is the part of the form that's not fully facing the light, but it's not fully in shadow yet. And so I'm just trying to mute some of my color and also soften some of the edges into this shadow shape so that we don't pay too much attention to the shape of the shadow, like it's not too hard of an edge. Let's see, we might need to do a little more highlight action in here, reflected light action from the tabletop. The stronger your reflected lights, the more shiny that object is going to feel, whether it's porcelain, whether it's metal. So the more contrast you have between shadow and reflected light is going to make that object feel shinier and more reflective, right? So I'm just kind of pushing, now I'm adjusting some of that build color. I'm going to do this, kind of object by object here to finish out the painting. So like maybe pushing a little more red, maybe a little more green, so that the highlights, really stand out more. And I think too, I can, this top kind of has a little coolness to it, a little grayness, a little coolness. Got a little gray here on the palette. I'm going to add in a little touch of purple. For that back edge, or on this highlight here. And then sometimes painting wet into wet, you start to lose your sharpness. Edges start to kind of blend in together. Like here with this, there's a pretty sharp transition here actually in the change on the form. So I want to make sure I have enough sharp edge there. See how it kind of, we get a nice highlight up here and then kind of tapers back and in a bit here. So I'm going to take some edge off of that paint quality to get the effect of that taper. Then it tapers back up here. So you kind of have these two planes that get more distinct, should have a more distinct edge. And I think paint quality and sharpness of edge is one of the best ways to pull that out. And reflected lights too, it's usually good to kind of break them up, so making sure they don't just look like a stripe on the object. So I'm just layering some of that background green again, kind of over that reflected light I put in. Just building these layers, a little more highlight, cool highlight. This kind of has a little more of that violet tone in it, which I think it's a nice interplay with the pinks. And the purples. This part of the cloth to finish it off needs, you see some of the, first, you know what, I feel like this, I didn't quite get this red right. I think it needs more burnt sienna. This stripe is warmer red. Got maybe a little too much alizarin. I would like to make sure that all my colors are represented in the setup in this fabric. That was part of the point of using it. A little more maybe Cab Red Light and burnt sienna here. Let's heat this up a little bit before we put in the yellow. Wiping that out of my brush. Grab some of my yellow ochre. And this also could be used to get the fringe started on the edges. Overlapping in front of the shadow, just doing some little bits. These hog hair brushes are really good for this because they naturally put down more texture and make brushwork look more textural. Okay, and starting to pull out some of the pattern, suggest some of the pattern that's in here. When I say suggest, I don't mean you're just randomly putting on little curlicues. Please don't do that. It looks so fake. It does not look real at all. So when I say suggest, it's like it's intelligent suggestion, right? So it's observational suggestion is a better way to say that. You are still observing what you're seeing. You're not just putting down something totally symbolic and random on your fabric. That won't look right. Good morning, Barbara. Thank you, Consuelo. Thank you. And then I do want to get maybe some of these little strings I think are nice. You can do more with those if you want to. I kind of made mine a little messy though, but oh well. C'est la vie. Okay. To make this side of the fabric come forward, I need to get some contrast around it. So I'm going to go for the opposite side of it here under my totally invented tabletop. Okay, and you can see that makes that shape appear just from the color that we had down. Now you can also do a little bit of maybe some glow or some of the yellow that's in here away from this edge. I wouldn't fuss over it too much. It's so close to the edge. But you can definitely do a little more work there if you want to. Maybe I will, I don't know. I'm gonna go over here. Let's resolve. It's resolution time. Okay. The beauty of all this is that the paint has been setting up for a little while. So it's, it's willing to comply a little bit more to some brush pressure. And it's willing to be kind of shaped and molded a bit more at this stage. Okay, so let's see what we need to do here. I feel like first and foremost I need to kind of carry over. I need to resolve this lemon here. It needs to stand out more against the background. So I need to carry over some of that dark a little bit more. We're in stage 3, so we're looking for making sure that things are showing up, that edges against one another or against the background are showing up more. Reflected lights. any other transitions or finishing touches. A little bit of this kind of gray color in here. That's a little too light. Gonna make this rind stand out a bit better on the inside. Layering a little bit of gray, a little bit of yellow. That's one of those real slippery colors. Call her Slippery Sue. Hard to kind of capture. There we go. You know it when you get it, but it can be challenging to get her. She's so slippery. She's like, I'm not a color, I'm not a shadow, I'm not a light, I'm a weird thing, a weird color. You know, it's not really yellow, it's not really gray, not really shadow. Okay, so getting that in gives me more information here that I can also relook at my edge of my contour. You know, it's got that almost like a heart type of shape to it. I'm not going to do light spilling out from that lemon because really where I want to utilize the reflected light from the lemon is here. Okay, so I'm not going to do that baby Jesus halo that we sometimes do if that's just against kind of a darker background. I see that this shadow can go maybe a little bit lighter, maybe a little hotter, maybe some more red, Cabulo Deep in the mix. Just because it's cast shadow doesn't mean that it can't stand out from that dark background. Just depends, you know, if you want it to be more mysterious or not. Do the same thing here, a little more red on the very back inside edge. This is probably the trickiest object to paint, I think, in the whole painting. And for shadowy white, maybe some black and yellow ochre for the rind that's in shadow. If that's reading a little too cold in the context, depending on what you painted in for your background color, you can add a little more yellow, cad yellow to it. And I just wipe my brush in between this. I just want to get this rind hit with a little more pure white, create a stronger edge. Bam. Okay, if your edges do not have enough crispness, your light will look weaker. If your edges do not have enough crispness, your light will look, not Christmas, crispness. Sharpness, your light will look weaker. There will be no Christmassy edges in this painting. You can tell that you're doing better, feeling happier when your sense of humor starts to return. Nice. Feels good. A little edge of highlight there. You know, sometimes I do things over and over, and then the paint, not that there's anything wrong with that, but then the paint kind of gets all, just too much is going on, you know? So if that happens to you, look at it to me, you can either take some more of that pure color and just flatten out the paint. It'll also pull some of the paint off, which is okay if you're putting a bunch of paint down. But I'm just kind of like, was not looking the way I would want it to look. Okay, let's try that again. not to say it wasn't good enough, but it can be better. Okay, we want to get a little bend in this petal down here, so I need a little purple, or so you can either grab some burnt umber, you can grab some background green. I'll post a photo of this after too, so that maybe you can see it a little clearer, the subject. But there's just ever so slightly a little dimple in that rose. And then also this is where you can pull in a little separation of the petal, bring in a little bit of dark shape there on that petal. Going back to my cad red light and white. Also, if you want to get more movement in your petal here, more curve, more movement, now would be the time to do so. So stage 3, you're making, you're definitely adding nuance, adding more details. Mostly adding nuance through making, minor adjustments or additions or subtractions or adjustments in the color. Okay, need to go back to that shadow white for this rind over here. So I'm going to try some ivory black, Maples yellow, maybe a little bit of that blue and cadmium yellow that's adjacent to it on the palette. You cannot paint this pure white because it's really not it's not totally in light, some of it is in shadow. You start to pick up a little more pure white, let's say a little more of a queen white, that's good too. Down here on the bottom right, this just starts to slope out and kind of catch some of that light, or up here on the top right. So just be careful, painting all of that. Make sure not to paint that whole rind white. And then same thing, is true for some of this glow. You don't really want it to all be bright yellow and glowy. This is another Slippery Sue moment. I'm seeing more glow passing through that kind of gelatin-like lemon wedge here. So more cadmium. And if the whole thing is covered in cadmium, adding more cadmium is not going to make it look glowy. So you know you've painted too much cadmium if, as you're adding more cadmium, it's still not looking glowy. Or it doesn't have to be cadmium, it could be another kind of bright yellow like that, saturated yellow. So if that's happening, that tells you that you need more of kind of a grayish brown, Slippery Sue kind of color to create the look, the illusion of that glow. I'm going to do a little more. Remember, what did I say earlier? Does anyone remember about your edge? Light and edges. I hope you remember, because I don't. Somewhere in my brain. We can always hit rewind. That's the beauty of these. Oh, crispness. Your light will not look bright without the crisp edge. So just trying to make sure that that left edge facing the light on this little lemon wedge is nice and crisp. Sorry if you were typing that in. Type it in. Didn't mean to spoil the pop quiz. Now, these little grapes, I'm going to start by putting in some more cadmium red light to get a glow. This would be like, this is the color of the grape itself, light passing through a purple grape. But then the other thing that's fun to do if you have a lemon close by is putting in some of the yellow as well. At least on one. and again, that just kind of helps the colors and the light move around the picture, tie together, makes the painting feel more like, there's real light in the picture. If your painting's not feeling, if your picture's not feeling like there's realistic light, it could be that you need some reflected light. Reflected lights or transmitted lights. Okay, all right. I'm pretty satisfied with where this went today, and I feel like I reminded myself of some things that maybe I had some temporary amnesia on by painting this. I didn't put any paint down yet for the table edge, so although part of it is like, well, the values work, but there's no paint. It's not like everything has to be covered in paint, but I'm going to do a little bit of burnt sienna. I'll leave some of that thin tone showing through. I kind of like that texture, the layers from the, not just covering it in a thick amount of paint. Sometimes too, if you want more effective layers, you can also kind of use your brush to kind of lift some of the paint. If you do feel like everything just got too covered, you don't have enough thin versus thick, you can also do things like that, where you take medium and kind of lift some of it off, perhaps. Maybe you want to create more dynamic cast shadow angles or something back here. So there's all kinds of ways while the painting is still wet that you can kind of play with those thin versus thick layers. I had a student once in a class I was teaching at the National Cowboy Museum, so hesitant to put on paint because he was afraid he was going to lose his sense of translucency in some areas. And that fear that he had of losing his translucency or transparency really held him back from finishing the painting. He was so afraid of that. And even though I tried to assure him, like, it's okay, if you get too much paint on, you can pull some of it off, you can, or you can just learn from the lesson, but he wasn't buying it. So he left his painting in that unfinished, kind of fearful state, sadly. You have to watch out for little schemas, little belief systems little rules you start to invent for yourself as you're learning about painting. Things that are stopping you from moving forward. I'm gonna do a little bit of purpley gray. I'm gonna do some ultramarine blue, some of my pinky red for some of the dusting. I think it's maybe especially on this one. Let's try it. Hear this has the hesitancy in my voice. You have to kind of commit here. Is the edge of the grape going to be a dark against the light of the background? Or is it going to be a light against the dark of the background? And they don't all have to be the same. So I think I'm going to make this one a lighter edge against the background using some of that yeasty dusting. And let's make sure that this edge, even if it's a dark object, you can make it look colorful or rich or whatever its character is by having a crisp enough edge. There's kind of one back in here. back in the distance. So try to, kind of wish I had one more. I think I'll just make one up. I wish I had one more over here just to follow through and to kind of frame out the lemon. I kind of wish that bunch of grapes just kind of carried on a bit further, so we can do it however we want. Don't like this highlight so close to the edge. Lemon, I'm going to move it over. Sometimes things like that just get too close together, and it's too, they're not overlapping. I guess that's what they sometimes call kissing, I think. That wasn't quite kissing, but it's just too close to it though. Very close to kissing. More red in here. Okay. Well, I hope this has been helpful to everybody today. I hope you walked away with something new that you can apply and try in your own paintings. And if nothing else, you got a new sunless tanner tip. How about that? Using a soft hair, love these brushes, Ruby Satin by Silver Grand Prix. Oh gosh, I want to do one more thing to that rose now that I'm over here. See, this is the nice thing about softening out this background is first of all, I can kind of do some finessing in and of itself on objects or kind of cut in. But I was meaning to go back and put a little touch of red in the center of that. Oh, it's beautiful. Sometimes too, just getting underneath these things, softening maybe a back edge of a drapery or something. Just dragging some of that background color. Or if you've got too much, something's catching glare and you don't want it to, or you just want to kind of carve out some of the foreground a little more clearly. Good opportunity to do that. I would just caution you, don't use this in your lights because you're going to lose a lot of depth. Things like you could maybe kind of push the gray a bit more there. Sometimes too, another fun thing is layering maybe a little bit of against the table edge. Okay, one last final brush stroke. I promise. Promises. Let me just, okay, 2. Usually there's just a little more reddish tone right in the center. Okay, 3. And then on the inside, a little gray here on the inside, guys. You can use a little background color as well. Kind of create that. Okay, I'm not missing that back rose, so I think we're good. All right, everybody. I hope that this has been informative, nonetheless, inspiring, or something. Hope you got something out of this time investment you made today, being here with me, and I so appreciate it. Appreciate all of your support, and also I appreciate you sharing with me too, like where you're struggling, what you would like to learn about in your painting or just in your art life journey. Let me know what's going on for you, what's coming up for you, where you could use some additional instruction or support. A little bit of green leaf in there. Okay. All right, everybody, have a wonderful Wednesday. Happy painting. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.